Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Know the Rules of the Game podcast for Defining the Future. I'm your host, Desiree Patno, CEO and President of Women in Housing and Real Estate Ecosystem, NAWRB, and Desiree Patno Enterprises, Inc., DPE Real Estate Brokerage. I'm the advisor and investor for Amicus Brain Innovations and the Chief Strategic Officer for Zulu Time and publisher of NAWRB Magazine and NAWRB Report. I'm very honored to have as a special guest join us today, Dr. Chitra Dorai. She is the CEO and president of Amicus Brain Innovations, Inc., an AI scientist and former IBM fellow. Dr. Chitra Dorai is a globally renowned AI scientist and the founder and CEO of Amicus Brain Innovations. Prior to this role, Dr. Dorai had a highly decorated career at IBM, where she was an IBM fellow and was a global chief CTO for cognitive services. She is frequently interviewed or cited in press, news and blogs, and YouTube video on a wide variety of topics. She has published over 100 technical papers at international conferences and journals, received multiple Best Paper Awards, and edited a book. She is the co-inventor of 48 patents and has received multiple high-value patent awards, along with recognition as a master inventor 3 times. She was a recipient of IBM's highest honors, including the Gerstner Award for Client Excellence, and was appointed an IBM Fellow, the company's preeminent technical honor. In 2019, she received certificates of congressional recognition from the United States House of Representatives for her professional and community service. Welcome, Chitra. I'm so honored to have you today.
Thank you, Desiree, for inviting me to your podcast. I'm very pleased to be here. 30 years of AI and ML research and development experience, some 21 years at IBM, and now 15 months into founding Amicus Brain. It's been a fantastic ride. I've had the greatest fortune of doing very meaningful industry transformative work across many industries, in banking and mortgage in the last decade, during the last crisis we had in 2008, the housing crisis. I've also worked on the beginnings of digital television for media and communications industry, and also some e-learning work now, which has become the new normal, online learning, in early 2000s. So during various technical leadership roles that I held at IBM. So we are bringing the same kind of focus and passion in transforming, caring for the aged population, especially ones with neurological disorders, with Amicus Brain.
Very cool, very cool. So tell us a little fun fact about yourself. You are this bubbly, incredible, energized woman. So tell us something funny.
I knew you would ask me this question. Every time I have appeared on stage with you.
That's right. We got to get this live, girl.
So the fun fact for today, as I thought about as I anticipated your question. So my name is Chitra, as you rightly introduced me. And if you parse my name, Chi in my Chitra is a Chinese word that means life force or energy. So developing Chi is a way of healing both mentally and physically, and it's a path to reaching one's full potential. So I guess that's why whatever I do, I bring my life force and my energy into everything I do to make a change in the world.
That's cool. That's I love it. I love it. Everyone has. I think there's so much to a name of people that it really resonates. That if you break it down, that purposeful naming, purposeful thought behind, and things come to them. So I love it. That's so cool. That's so cool. So let's talk about a little bit about Amicus Brain. Talk to us a little bit about what Amicus Brain Innovations is, and what you're hoping to do with it, and what you're working on right now.
Desiree, the number of people in the U.S. living with cognitive impairment, including Alzheimer's disease and related dementia, is over 5.8 million today, and is projected to increase to nearly 14 million by 2050. The rapidly growing population of informal caregivers which is more than 16 million today,
Mm-hmm.
for patients with cognitive impairment is subject to high stress due to patient behavioral symptoms, increased demands on caregiver time, and lack of adequate caregiving knowledge to address changing patient conditions. I personally have experiences as my parents have aged and they are going through some of these conditions. I remotely care for them, and I see the generation of sandwich caregivers, the generation that not only is bringing up their young ones, they're also taking care of their family at the same time. The demands on their time is very high. So that's why I wanted to I came out of IBM to address the need for or address the space by bringing AI technology to reduce the burden on the caregivers. So Amicus Brain Innovation was founded towards the end of December 2018. It's a New York-based health tech startup, and it's developing AI technology to transform caring for patients with neurodegenerative disorders. Amicus Brain has developed AI-led personalized assistive and decision support services, and it focuses on caregivers and their complex time-consuming tasks. And our AI platform and services that we have built will support caregivers and their patients before, at the time of diagnosis, as well as while living with the disease. So our purpose is to bring a scalable, cost-effective solution to the market that raises the standard of current caring practices in neurodegenerative diseases, mm-hmm. and which will hopefully lead to better health outcomes.
Good. I'm so honored to be part of this and to have met you 3 years ago, at Americatalyst with Tony Moss, regarding, just bringing the story of the work that we were doing here on the data analytics, and you saying, yes, I'd love to read this, and the work that you're doing, and to take at the pinnacle of your career to start this up as a bigger global issue is so heartfelt to not only to myself and several people that I know, and it's just drawn into, here we are in the pandemic, and the number one thing was aging population, how it's affecting and how it's going to go into it, and now the health aspect of that, not only from the underlying conditions, but the cognitive issues, all the things that are going on isolation. So the work that you're doing is just unbelievable. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's go ahead and set the stage. And this really plays into redefining or defining the future as about what we're going to talk about, the leadership and how that plays into it, because as we move through the pathway of becoming leaders and how that plays into especially dealing with as we age, and how we have to deal with taking on all those responsibilities in addition to the career path of leadership. Let's set the stage. During the global health pandemic, effective leadership is more important than ever as companies face drastic changes to their operations and employees face more responsibilities at home. Technology has become an important tool in everyday life, more so than ever before. In healthcare, technology is helping to monitor cases, share information, care for patients, and ensure public safety. Outside of healthcare, the corporate world and school systems have also used technology as a means to carry on their business operations, such as using Zoom and other video conferencing websites to host virtual meetings and classroom sessions. Here we are. NAWRB's Diversity and Inclusion Leadership Council, NDIC, created the 10 women leadership principles to help women in the real estate and housing ecosystem become more effective leaders and empower other women to reach their full potential. Today, Chitra and I will discuss the leadership principles she contributed to the 10 women leadership principles, including what inspired them and how women industry leaders should apply them in their new environment to define the future. So, thank you, thank you. 3 rules for defining the future. Number 1, Prepare for the future. Women with advanced skills today will be ready for tomorrow's challenges. Number 2, lead by example. Inclusion isn't enough. Press for parity and strive for excellence in everything. And number 3, pass the torch. Give opportunities to future generations of women. Your legacy will be the people you help along the journey. So Chitra, let's ask a couple questions here to really dive deep into this. Take a deep dive. Can you explain for us how you arrived at each of these principles and why they are each integral step for redefining the future?
Desiree, I remember the time very vividly that all of us as part of NDILC crafted these 10 women leadership principles. And at that time, I remember speaking about the leadership for this decade. Mm-hmm. Little did we know at that time that, what was awaiting us in this beginning of 2020. So we entered the decade of 2020 with a health crisis of immense proportion. The COVID-19 global pandemic has affected the lives of every American, upended billions of lives of people on this planet. And this disruption has come from an exogenous source that looks like over which we have no control. So we may be in the middle of raging debates about how to best handle this disease or ameliorate, mitigate its ramifications across the society. No one will dispute this fact that we have entered into a new normal. And this new normal, what is it going to be? And what does it entail? What shifts does the new normal bring into our lives as citizens, as employers, as businesses, as consumers? And the changes and their impact on how we live, how we work, and how we use technology are going to set the stage for the new normal to become the old normal soon enough in this decade. So as I thought about what is awaiting us and how our lives have changed, of all the 10 principles that we had come up with, 3 stood out for me. That we need to be accelerating our efforts and focus on preparing for the future. So that's why you chose that one as the first one. So who is going to be ready for tomorrow's challenges? And the tomorrow is not too far away into the future. It's the imminent tomorrow. It's the imminent future.
Yes.
And as we also saw this crisis unfold, we see inaction and paralysis and disagreements. And that for me brought to the center of how leadership should be all about lead by example. That decisiveness, that we need to act with decisiveness, that we need to act with resolve, especially when things are uncertain, when the information is incomplete. So therefore, lead by example stood out very immediately as one of the 10 principles that speaks to the times. And of course, as we, the business leaders, comprehend the depth of this adversity we are facing and coming up with a plan to come up with remedies, we also need to be passing on, teaching the next generation of talent leaders so that they are prepared should there be another one in the future. So pass the torch again is the necessary, is again another critical leadership principle that will help us prepare for the future.
Love it. So question, so we've heard where, our COVID, our quality of life magazine just came out a couple weeks ago and the last month. And in there was an incredible article that we highlighted about the 7 countries run by women that are doing an incredible job on addressing COVID. One of them being the Netherlands, and these are all you know, women presidents. And she has now officially declared that she's eradicated COVID in the country. And we're analyzing, you know, a lot of the different countries, are seeing what's happening in other countries and comparing to what's happening in our own country here in the United States, and seeing what's working. So the fact that we're looking at that, this really plays into the next question on the fact that why is it working in this country versus another country? Are they, you know, not to go through the dynamics of the pandemic right now, but these are what I believe are so important, that here we have 7 women that they're actually bringing shining the light on, right? And how that plays into the forefront. So here we are with question, looking at the second question I'd love to ask you is, what sort of advanced skills will women professionals need to have to be successful in this new environment post-COVID?
It's leadership with resolve and empathy, and based on science and data. That has been a recipe for having much better outcomes in terms of handling this crisis. So that takes us directly to the kind of skills that women leaders have begun to embrace, begun to pick up, and that will lead them to success. So think about it. STEM skills are critical. In the new normal that we are living in, we talked about technology has seeped into every aspect of our lives. So for young women in schools and colleges, picking up programming, getting completely, utterly comfortable with technology, and not only using technology, but also designing and controlling it is also equally important. And for women leaders, while they may not, you know, they will have their team who are designing these products, the women leaders need to embrace the new tech, the high tech. Being curious about technology, staying on top of these new developments is very key. Even if a leader does not program or write code or create a new software product, one needs to know enough about the advances that are being made in AI and machine learning and quantum computing and Internet of Things, all these emerging technologies, in order to ask intelligent questions and also think about how their products and services can be enhanced with these capabilities. So I look at that curiosity about emerging technologies and staying abreast of what is happening, and translating that in terms of how the new technology can be harnessed to increase their customer loyalty. That is going to be critical. In addition, I would say change management as a skill, embracing change, and not only embracing change, but also driving change through the organization through the kinds of shifts we are seeing.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I think there's a couple things you talked about: change management and the empathy at the very beginning. I'll go back to that. I believe that, you know, where there's a lot of discussion now in the past year about emotional intelligence and dealing with the capacity of caring and dealing with the, you know, how you feel. You know, that if we go back to the statement to where it's not what you say or do, it's how you make someone feel at the end of the day. And that empathy of showing how you immediately open your heart, you open your mind, and they're all in. They listen to everything you want to say versus shutting you down if there's something real quick. You know, our attention span is so short. And by having that warmth, you want to be part of that virtual hug, we're going to call it right now. And then on top of that, you talked about the change management, which to me is, embracing change and running to the opportunity versus then resisting. We can sit here and deal with that because there's going to be a lot of cognitive issues that fall out because of the pandemic and what we're going through, and making sure that we look at it as an opportunity. And you talked about the other thing is the environment of embracing high tech, and getting involved in that. One of the things that I like to amplify that is that you might not have to know everything about it. That's why you have experts around you like you, versus that you understand it at least to the basic elements, that you can incorporate it and have it so you can show, like you say, the loyalty of clients. So excellent. Just love that. So moving on to number 3, can you explain for our listeners what the 4th industrial revolution is? How will this current global health pandemic affect this new era of technological development?
Sure. Think about Ford as a continuum of the 3 industrial revolutions that have gone on before. The first one was all about water and steam power, which was all about mechanizing production. The second used electricity, which helped reach scale, which helped us reach mass production. Mm-hmm. And the third was all about electronics and information technology. And what it did do, it was all about digitizing. Think about the content that is accessible to everyone on the globe today. With a phone, and you can reach any piece of information on any server in the world. And the fourth one, people consider it a continuum of the third, and it is really about a fusion of technologies that have come about. Think of technologies that are blurring the lines between the physical, digital, and biological aspects. Let's take an example. Think about, how a disembodied voice like Alexa is controlling a physical thing in your house, such as lights. So now it's a fusion of AI there, which understands natural language and voice, speech, and is able to control a physical element. Another one, think about using our face recognition, our physical self, our face, to open the phones. So you're seeing already the infusion of what we call cyber-physical capabilities being adapted everywhere. So that's really what the industrial revolution, 4th industrial revolution is about, and some people call it Industry 4.0. And Professor Schwab, founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, he talks about it and in the context of the velocity and the scope and the system impact of this Industry 4.0. Just like the 3 industrial revolutions that changed the society in profound ways, this is also expected to, as we see the ramification of the adoption of these technologies across our lives.
It's unbelievable how like the integration of is evolving right in front of our eyes of where we were 10, 20 years ago. You talked about quantum computing. I think it's a beautiful piece of hardware to have in my home, just the color of and what it looks like. And I had the honor of going with you to the IBM think tank in 2018 and seeing that beautiful, it wasn't hooked up obviously because it has to stay at, I think it was 460 degrees Celsius of Fahrenheit or Celsius, whatever, under, negative to keep it cold. I'm not sure everyone understands or knows what about quantum computing is, and that's part of the 4th industrial revolution, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's definitely very, very different. So thank you for that. So let's go on to the next question. How has the pandemic changed the goals or operations of Amicus Brain Innovation Inc. We've heard so much of, retooling from, making ventilators to face masks to offset printers to all these incredible things that are coming out there. So what have you changed within Amicus Brain?
Certainly, the pandemic has become an amazing catalyst for the increased use and development of robots, and which ties into AI. So think about robots automatically taking temperature in public places. Think about drones delivering medicine. Think about autonomous or remote controlled robots disinfecting surfaces. These are real. These are here today. And on the social side, at Amicus Brain, we had talked about, and in fact, Desiree, you may remember our demonstration at the 2019 International Conference of Alzheimer's Association. We demonstrated our early prototype of an AI service to reduce the loneliness for elderly population who are unable to get online to reduce their isolation. So pandemic definitely, has reinforced our commitment and accelerated our development efforts at Amicus Brain to bring our capabilities to market. So we will continue.
Go ahead, sorry.
So we will continue to move on to bringing virtual reality, which is going to be an important element in terms of how our physical presence or physical gatherings are going to be irrevocably changed in the new normal. So we definitely, Amicus Brain continues to build on that idea in terms of what it means to change the nature of caregiving for people with cognitive disorders.
Yeah, there's
Go ahead.
I was going to say the delay between the bicoastal. One of the things I think I'd really like to highlight, and that was an incredible time over in Los Angeles of meeting tens, what was it, I think 7,000, 8,000 from around the world at the conference. But one of the things that I think is so valuable of Amicus Brain pivoting and this is a great integration is we've heard countless tens of thousands of incredible individuals that are going through the COVID, and they had no way, they were not allowed in the hospital, their loved ones couldn't be by their bedside and talk to them of that hand holding and where they had to communicate through the phone through one of the care providers. So when you talk about the isolation of the aging population, to go into care facilities, it was already part of the thread, in my opinion, that addressing the isolation issue, whether as the aging population goes, in addition to how it's affecting the health of everyone around you, and continuing through the migration of families to be able to be there to have that and that warmth. So to create a platform to help the best that's there is so powerful. So thank you for that, because it really plays into I believe the highlighting what's going on in the pandemic has brought it to the forefront for the aging population. I think is a catch there.
If I may add, this whole notion of social robots actually goes beyond what we originally envisioned 18 months ago in the context of helping the aging population to stave off loneliness. It is actually, I think it is going to become a part of the new normal, where, if one wants to, without being able to gather in person, and if one wants to assemble virtually, your avatar is going to be there. And providing the kind of stimulation and interaction. And think about that. I think it's dual benefits we will get. We will get, from a pandemic perspective, we will reduce infection risk, and at the same time, we'll also reduce carbon footprint, because we don't have to travel,
Yes.
far away in order to have that person-to-person interaction. So it's going to be a fascinating next few years in terms of advances that we will be making, and how that the advances in virtual reality and virtual immersion, how they are going to make their way into our daily lives.
You brought up two incredible pieces of this that, we talk about the carbon footprint, just already the effects with the 2 months or 3 months, depending on where you are in the world, how it's helped the environment so much, whether it be the oceans, the air. It's unbelievable what that changes. And the other thing is that, that I travel every week. I'm on an airplane going somewhere, attending an event, speaking somewhere, collaborating. And now I would not have thought of gotten on a Zoom call or some kind of telecommunication call to where I visually got to speak to someone on a regular basis. It's always, okay, I'm on a subway, I'm here, I'm on the phone. And now being able to see someone and talk to them, even though it's not in person, that environment to actually get on and communicate with them as if I'm there, has been so enlightening. And one of the great things that I have realized, that instead of just getting on a phone call and talking to someone, I want to physically see you. I want to be involved, because then I get to see the environment. I get to see them. I still get some of that energy that I would not get through a phone. You only have the sensory to go. So thank you on that. And then also the environment that, when you talk about the transition of the having a robots, taking an order, or, doing the temperature and things like that, and less diseases being transmitted because of that environment. Just my mind, the visual capacity of going with that's crazy wild. So thank you for that enlightenment. So if we move on to number 5, do you have a mentor that made a significant impact on your career and helped you obtain opportunities?
Absolutely. I think every successful leader will attest to the amazing learning and enrichment that comes with being mentored and mentoring. So definitely I've been lucky to have had mentors throughout my life, inside and outside of work. So work mentors, life mentors, advocates, sponsors, the names may be different, but they all had something special in terms of what I took away from them, in terms of being kind and generously sharing their experience and their expertise. So far too many to list anyone in particular. I cherish them all. And every one of them has had impact, small to big, and helped me navigate life at work and life and work.
I love that. Well, you've been mentoring for so many years, whether it be through your former jobs, and I know you have been mentoring for students, and you take them all the way up to competitions, and you've been giving so much of your valuable time for so many years, and your passion, your heart to help bring the next gen up from now they're younger. Are they correct? The 4 that you were mentoring recently?
Yeah, they are high schoolers learning AI and machine learning.
There you go. I mean, to have that, unbelievable. I mean, if you think about 48 co-patents, inventor patents, and all the things that you've done, and I'd like to highlight, the first of Indian descent to be an IBM fellow, and to be recognized out of 600,000 employees, one of the highest recognitions within, not only in the community. That's just, yeah, like, right? I just think that's fantastic. So when we talk about mentoring and leadership as we go through the pipelines, you know, and it really relates back to, you know, pass the torch principle that, you know, we curated as part of the 10 principles. By mentoring, giving the examples and continuing that thought process that you mentioned, it's just not about the professional world, it's about the personal world. And I think more than ever, the pandemic has highlighted that, right? Is that you could be this incredible professional, but then stuff happens. And that could be whether health issues, that could be outside of the pandemic, but that could be, you know, caring for someone who, you know, people don't realize that, you know, you have these incredible leaders running these massive companies, or and all of a sudden, you know, someone falls ill or someone has Alzheimer's, dementia, and how do you take care of that? And you know, how do you provide to give the best care? Do you continue your job, or do you hire someone else, or do you quit and be a full-time care provider? Those are so many different deliverables that really need to make sure that, you know, the pandemic has really focused on that and brought that to the forefront, and those impacts that go from it. Because now we have something that could be so quickly, you'll be fine one day, the next day, you know, have an illness, and then within a week or 2 weeks, you know, world happens and go through a whole family. So that mentoring, I believe, not only from AI standpoint, but everything from the personal and professional is so powerful. So thank you. So moving on to question number 6, you have a history of mentoring youth in STEM, which played into my question. How have mentors impacted the way you mentor others, and how has your mentorship affected the students you have helped?
Sure, but before I tell you what I've been doing lately in terms of mentoring, one slight correction: I'm the first woman of Indian origin to have been appointed IBM fellow. We don't want the Indian men to get upset.
I'm sorry for that.
So I tell this story. You know, I was one of 3 women in my undergraduate electrical engineering class. So when I packed my bags to come to the US to do my graduate studies in computer science, I was thrilled. I was thrilled for many reasons, but I was also thrilled that I was going to see a lot of women in the graduate school studying along with me. But when I came, much to my consternation, guess what I found is that the limited representation of women in STEM fields transcended national borders. So that strengthened my resolve to make time to give back, to foster interest in STEM, and to nurture next set of you know, STEM leaders, STEM talent across the globe. So for the past, I would say, close to nearly 30 years, I've been able to participate in various activities and give back time and you know, try to make a difference in my own way. So I have done for many years engineering week activities when I was at IBM, and I do this family science program in the winter, every winter, where we teach middle schoolers in our area various STEM disciplines. And of course, over the weekends, which is what you're alluding to, I have these high schoolers who visit my home for some free AI and machine learning coaching. So one thing that has stood out, what I took away from my mentors is storytelling. It's one thing to mentor with abstract ideas or abstract advice, but I felt every time, you know, something I learned has always been through a story somebody had mentioned. Because storytelling has been very powerful throughout human history. We know the importance of that. Yeah. So when somebody tells me a story, it gives me the context, and I remember everything around that, and I can take away how to incorporate the suggestion, recommendation they are making into my own life situation. So I do that quite a bit. I see myself doing quite a bit with my own mentors also, with my mentees, with the people whom I mentor. Rather than providing abstract advice or principles which people can learn on their own from books, I tend to provide very practical, story-rich advice, so they can see the context in which some of the advice will work and when it won't. So, for example, leaning in works sometimes. Leaning back with patient also works sometimes. So, so one has to know how to apply that in the right context. So, yeah, I think I love sharing whatever I have learned. My usual mantra is take everything that I've learned and go and make new mistakes and learn from that.
Yeah, no, I don't believe you make mistakes. Sorry, Chitra, that's not in the playbook there. Well,
so I'll end with a little story, which I think would be good to end on a positive note, right? So I've mentored people over the 2 decades I was at IBM, and I continue to do that. And I was very pleasantly surprised. Recently, I received a message from a woman on LinkedIn, whom I had mentored quite a while ago, and she is holding a leadership position in a corporate setting. And she wrote to me, I understand many things better now. I've learned a lot from you. You're quite an extraordinary woman. Another one sent a message, you are the reason I could finish my master's. There is nothing more wonderful than receiving such heartfelt messages and celebrating how the people whom you have encountered and have been touched in ways small and big.
That's the time to take to say thank you. I think that's one of the things we've learned during the pandemic is to say thank you, and for them to reach out and say thank you. Like you said, it's just simple things that thank you for giving me your time to finish my master's, to the clarity, the impact. So it's it's so powerful and how it makes us feel, and I think that goes back to how it relates to the storytelling that you're talking about, is the storytelling advice. It's really making you how the person feels. That, like you said, you could read how you do AI and what that looks like, and all the principles and formulas and mathematical equations that go through everything. But to have an association of the how it comes from the heart, and how you can apply it to where you feel the generational pull to say, this is just, oh my gosh, this is what I can do. I think that's why so many people get into the philanthropy work, is that they're driven by their exposure on what they're able to do through it. So that storytelling is so powerful. And that's one of the things that we bring here at NAWRB is that when we put together a magazine, when we put together the NAWRB report, when we put together our ability to come out and connect the industries. People always say, why in the housing would technology be involved? Well, prop tech. Why would the environment be that you would deal with the homeless when you're dealing with, the family office and that whole spectrum? Because it's sustainability. You could be at the pinnacle of your career and something happen, and then you walk away. And why? What is that involved? And so all those different economic and industry relatable things has to come from the storytelling of where you got there, how your journey has been, and who you affected and how they affected you makes you different and unique. And it's one of the things that attracted me to you, besides your brilliance, is you always have a smile. You always are laughing. You always have this clarity that you can bring to any situation, to where you can just shine a light and go, this, analyze it, and then bring the laughter to it. And to me, that is priceless. So thank you for all the people you mentored, continue to mentor. And it's so important that part of the principles, you know, we go back and we look at them again. Prepare for the future. Women with advanced skill sets today should be ready for tomorrow's challenges, right? Lead by example. Inclusion isn't enough. Press for parity and strive for excellence in everything. You know, we didn't go into that one really in depth, but the idea is that having everyone listen to all, process it, and analyze it, and go from it, and making sure that we're all part of the equation. You know, you're seeing so many on boards and things like that, and then pass the torch. Your whole career and your legacy is been that amplified to the highest level of passing that torch, of really getting out there and always taking that notion. And for that, you know, like the NAWRB report we're working on for 2020, you know, you brought to the table, you know, it's not just the, you know, amplifying, working and production of a product, but actually designing the production by women, for women, because of different things. So let's talk about, if I know this is a new one on you, about how that how that applies to defining the future. You know, let's do a little segment on that for real quick.
As I was listening to you wrapping up, what stood out for me was, while the times may be uncertain, but there is so much, the future is ahead, rife with possibilities.
Yes.
You know, I think soon enough, all of us will be talking about life before COVID and life after COVID. And life after COVID is going to be transformational. And there's so much more. There's so much for all of us to do, to bring the best in all of us, to make the new normal become the sustained normal. So thank you, Desiree, for having me on your podcast.
Thank you very much and I appreciate that. So how can we get a hold of you? So if anyone's interested in being part, to follow, to you know, learn more about Amicus Brain, what's the best way to reference it?
Absolutely. So I would encourage our audience to take a look at a new piece of work we just did on COVID-19 and the aging population. So you can go to www.amicusbrain.com/COVID, or just amicusbrain.com/COVID. You will see an interesting perspective about how the disproportionate impact of COVID on aging population, and our analysis of the numbers and what they show, the insights. You'll get a fresh set of insights from that. So you can reach me at my email address, Dorai@amicusbrain.com.
Excellent, thank you. And Amicus is AMICUSBRAIN.com. So amicusbrain.com, just for everyone. And I am so honored, so thank you, Chitra, for spending this morning with us regarding defining for the future, you know, the rules of the game. And I want to just bring to you, everyone, that next week we're going to have Vanessa Montanage for Never Stop Learning, which is something that really is so powerful out there, obviously, for know the rules of the game, for Never Stop Learning. And to get a hold of us here at NAWRB.com, in addition to the podcast, they're on iTunes, Anchor, YouTube, and also on the website. So you can look at it and make sure to stay in tune for every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We will have a new speaker and a new guest with us. So thank you again. I'm Desiree Patno, your host for Know the Rules of the Game, for defining the future. Everyone stay healthy, stay safe. And thank you again, Chitra, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.